All right. Hey, welcome back to the Go for CEO channel. This is your guy, John the Bomb. Building others means business. And, I love when I say that acronym because it really is about building others in business. And the guy I'm coming on today at the Go for CEO channel, I met at a 10X Grant Cardone conference. And this guy, man, I mean, he was wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, looking around, making connections, but he was just laser focused. And I could see the passion in him to do what he was about to do. And he was just getting started, just creating a product. And man, you're going to have a lot of fun hearing about Kickit today. So Eli Dent, CEO of Kickit, how are you, my friend?
No, I'm doing great, John. I'm excited to be here, man. Really looking forward to it. I've seen your show and your guests, so I feel privileged to be on.
Oh man, we're excited to have you on. And it's really cool to hear and see someone from kind of like the beginning stages, right? We've stayed in touch. I know there was a professor that, we connected through a university as well, and just seeing kind of the momentum. And now, man, you're blowing up. You're like traveling to Europe and you're traveling to back to the US or your homeland and all this stuff that's going on, and it's been really interesting to see. So let's hit it hard here in the first few minutes so people can really understand what Kickit's all about. So, what is going on, man? You're revolutionizing the soccer industry, and really the cool thing about it and how you've developed something so impactful. So share with the Go for CEO community what you're doing with Kickit.
Yeah. So Kickit is a hybrid soccer inspired backyard game business. So effectively we merge other traditional sports with soccer to make it, to kind of merge audiences. So right now, this world that we're living in, it's an exciting one for what we're trying to do, because you see, pickleball is exploding, right? And in a lot of ways, pickleball was a combination of like ping pong and tennis and so seeing kind of this rise in interest and excitement about being outdoors, but doing it in different formats is really what we're doing through the lens of soccer. So I played soccer my whole life, played in college Division I, and through that journey, just kind of, had these experiences in not necessarily soccer audiences where people really wanted to be active and play. And if we could find a way to make soccer casual enough for the everyday athlete or the everyday consumer to enjoy and be active together, then that was something that really inspired me. And so, we're 7 years on, and it's been an exciting journey. It started from one singular product to now we've got an entire product line. We're on Walmart.com, Target.com. We're expanding into Europe through distributors through there, with some of the largest, sporting good retailers in Europe. So yeah, man, it's exciting times.
I love it. I love it. And look, I mean, I remember when I first met you, you were kind of sharing just the idea of it and the ideation, and you had just started to maybe develop something of a prototype and had some feathers on it, and then like you remodeled it and stuff. And then we met at the university, just happenstance, with I forgot, it was Dr. something, I forgot his name.
Dr. Chitabi,
Yeah,
Mike Chitabi.
yeah. So really cool to see this journey. So help us understand this. I mean, you take an idea. So what's the ideation phase, right, into product development, into launch? Like, give us a taste of that for a few minutes here of kind of helping someone become that type of scenario.
I think the best way to approach this is sharing kind of so the prototype that you saw with the feathers, that was an evolution from going about it backwards. That's how I would describe it looking back on it now. And that was kind of building the business through, I went to business school in college, and, a lot of the lectures were, build a business plan, do your market research, then create the product, then find the customer. And so I did that process, right? And what I came to find is through my research, which is theoretical until you get in the field and you talk to people that might be a customer, through my, theoretical research and building a business plan and then building the product, is I brought a product to market. This is actually the first product that really was the genesis of this whole thing. So this is a hacky sack, for those of you who don't know. So it's essentially like a bag of plastic pellets that you kick, and it's a social thing. It was like really hot 70s, 80s, big social circles, and it was just a casual game. And so I was, again, kind of touching back on that earlier point of inspired by the idea of bringing soccer into a more casual light so that more people can enjoy it. And found myself playing hacky sack with my buddies in high school way back, and just reflecting on that was like, man, no one in this circle plays soccer, but here we are using the same mechanics of soccer. So when I committed to play at the University of South Carolina, I was like, this is a great platform and opportunity for me to build a business and leverage my sort of status as an athlete and my platform as an athlete to promote the business. So I went about it, that way of building the business plan, building the product, finding the manufacturing, got licensing for the official logo of the university, got the colors, everything, right? So I built the whole business, built the product. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to market. So I went out to try and sell it. And what I found was the perception, which is reality, the perception was hacky sack's too hard. No one felt like they could actually play hacky sack. And I was like, really, kind of like, man, what's happening, right? Like I did everything right. And it just wasn't, there was no transactions. People weren't buying it because they didn't even want to try it. It was just too difficult. And that was their perception. Even though I could feel like I could convince them, their initial perception was too hard. So after trying really hard for 2 years to really push that business, learning that I can't use my image, name, and likeness at the time because the NCAA was not allowing student athletes to do it. I was like, okay, so hurdle, is this a viable business? And was kind of having this conversation with a licensing guy, because I thought, okay, if I'm having trouble with distributing myself, maybe someone else that already has a lot of distribution could give me their thoughts and maybe put it into their channels and see if it works. And so this guy I got in a meeting, I was like, just give me 10 minutes of your time. Let me tell you what I'm doing. He was doing licensing for Marvel, DC, IMG. So this guy was kind of a big wig, and he's like, I'll give you 10 minutes. Ended up being like an hour and a half, which was a phenomenal conversation. And kind of through the end of that conversation, he was like, hey, you should really like consider this thing. It's got feathers on it. I saw it when I went to the Beijing Olympics, and 50 people are kicking it around. And I was like, first of all, I heard 50 people were kicking around. And then he said it was super easy. And I was like, okay, like, because no one's kicking this around. It's too hard. What is this thing? And then he starts to describe, it's got like a tail on it and some feathers. And I was like, man, I don't know. This is kind of weird. This conversation's going, I don't know what's happening, right? So I was like, thanks for your time, man. I'm going to go back and just try, figure out what I'm doing. And he, so later I looked back at that and I was like, maybe I need to explore this a little bit. And that's when I came across an ancient concept of kicking a birdie, like a shuttlecock, a badminton birdie. And it was originally called Jinsi, which it was based in China, 200 BC. So this thing has been around for a long time, just the concept of kicking a birdie. And so I was like, that's really cool. And then I started to understand that the reason why that was so popular and the reason why people could play it over there was because it was slower. And one of the biggest things that we were finding about the hacky sack is it falls quite fast. So because it falls fast, you've got to have really good dexterity and reactions to get to it. So took that concept, made it soccer oriented. This is the actual finished product today. This is the Kickit Pro. So I'll show you the product here. That comes in a hard construction too. We've got, the steel logo and packaging and everything, but this is the Kickit Pro. So it's got 4 feathers that create drag, slows it down in the air. It's got an elastic rubber kick pad. So that gives it the elasticity and the bounce. So easier bounce, slower in the air, makes it more fun and easier to play. So I went about creating that product from this failure. But before I created that product, I was like, okay, I need to find a customer before I actually take this to market. Like I need to make sure before I invest in the product development and building the product that I actually have a customer. So at the time I was playing for a semi-professional club in Georgia called Tormenta FC. They're now professional. And the mascot for the team was an ibis, which is a bird. And I was like, okay, like the mascot's an ibis. This product has got feathers. This could work. This could be a little, So I drafted like, hey, this is what I think the product could look like. Here are your colors. Here's your logo. This is the cost. What do you think about running like a limited batch and just seeing what happens? And they were like, we'll buy 300 of them. And I was like, let's go, So that at that point, we're in the game now. Like, okay, I'm now going to go produce the product. So I would say like in that whole process, I learned that it's so critical to find the customer, have conversations with genuine customers, and if you can pre-sell, to just confirm before you go into the whole thing of developing a product. Because a lot of people have great ideas, but getting it to market is the hardest part.
Yeah, you said the golden nugget there. So many ideas and no proof of concept, right?
Yeah.
No ability to really, or no reasoning, right? To really showcase it to a marketplace where they'll give you the feedback. So I love that stuff. And I remember those days you were tweaking it, changing it, looking at it, redeveloping it. And it was really an interesting time, even just from afar, watching you on LinkedIn and all these types of things. So look, you're in the semi-pro team, you approach them. It's kind of a bit of a joint venture in a way, right? Because they're kind of, did they monetize, did they fund everything for you, or was that something that you collaboratively did?
Yeah, so they purchased, I think it was 25% of the inventory before I produced it.
Okay.
So it was a pre-order, but I had to hit a certain MOQ, to get it produced and everything. So, so I was like, okay, if I can sell 25% of this up front, I know for a fact now I've got validation from a semi-professional club. So that's a business model that works. I can now sell this to, which I then did, like 2 months later, went back to Charleston and sold it to a pro club saying, hey, look, here's the units for this club they bought. Let's do it for you guys. And they bought it. It was a Charleston Battery, who've won national championships as well in the USL. But so it was a good, like, now I've got traction, like actual conversion traction. So we ran with that product for a while, and COVID happened not too long ago, and the whole business model flipped overnight. I mean, it was like we went from, very soccer focused customers, like soccer players, people that wanted to play, teams, clubs, to then everybody went home and we're looking for something to do outside, and they found Kickit. Wow. We were positioned well, we were marketing well. And so now we have this huge surge of demand from what is now the backyard game industry that I'm coming to understand, right? This backyard game industry has been around for forever, but we were never really in that space. We were more soccer training tools, soccer games. And so that was a totally different customer. And the feedback that we got was, hey, this is like really good quality. I mean, everything that we produce is like really high quality. That's like something that we, our prices aren't cheap. We were a little bit more of a premium product, and that's intentional because people are kicking it. It has to be durable. But so the feedback was, hey, this is really good quality, but it's really hard. I was like, well, it's really hard because that wasn't our initial customer. Our initial customer was like really, was soccer players. So now we've got general athlete or general active people trying to play. So we had to make a decision kind of through that of like, who do we want to serve here? Do we want to continue to really stay in this niche of soccer, or do we want to try and open and create a bridge to this more broad audience? And so the answer we kind of came to was like, let's find a way to do both, because we've got a really good product that soccer players love, but we need to develop something at the same time for maybe this broader audience. And so that's kind of our game now, that we just went on a tour across the US. We went to Europe, promoting this game that's a broader audience, and that's soccer tennis. So we developed a net. This is actually the portable net right here. And I got my patch I got from Scotland when we were traveling. I've got pins over here, but we, England, Scotland, Wales, France. So I took this thing all over Europe. It was awesome. And this is a portable net. So it's sets up in less than 60 seconds. And it's like soccer tennis. And this is the ball that we developed. I just got it all here so you can see it. So this is a soccer tennis ball. So you kick the ball over a net, you get 1 bounce and up to 3 touches to return it. So it's a softer ball, it's lighter, more accessible, more approachable. And that's the game that we're running with today. So a lot of, I would say the business that you saw in the very beginning and the business today are two, like it's hard to tell that they were from the same,
No, but that's the transitions, right? And you adapted and you were ready and coachable too. I'm sure that it lends me to think about this, in that process, we met at a conference, right? So, and you're just shared an incredible journey of changing, being nimble, being, adaptable to things. I would think, and I don't want to assume, but you were also coachable. So who is in your corner kind of teaching you some of these things, or were you just literally, kind of flying and trying to adapt at the same time? Or did you have some mentors, some people that were coaching you in the industry and trying to adapt with you?
Yeah, I think those are really key. Great question, because I think that every success comes from a village. I think that, it's either from customer feedback or family or friends or people, business people, mentors that have come around. And I was very much a product of that. Being a competitive athlete my whole life, came to understand the value of being on a good team with a good culture and the importance of that. And so early on, I connected with, her name is Krissa Watry, and kind of around the same time connected with her and a guy, Kent Wagner. Both of them played super critical roles in that early stage process, because there's a lot of growing pains. We had to get capital. And these are all things that I wasn't really familiar with, And so Krissa is now running, her company's probably valued maybe close to $1 billion at this point, tech company, but also just passionate about sports, engineer, MIT, Air Force, brilliant. And Kent had come from building a multi-million-dollar music retail company. And I found them both in Charleston. So I was pitching at local events, trying to get the name of the company out there, trying to raise capital, and kind of came across them both. And in different capacities, both of them really were pivotal in helping me figure it out,
Nate. So, you brought up a slightly different subject too, which is raising funds, right, and capital. So in that pursuit and in that connection that you made with these two mentors that have been integral to your business, you also found a rhythm of how to raise capital. So dive into that a little bit. I know, obviously, you're a college player, you're a semi-pro player, you get out of college, you went to a great university, but you're an entrepreneur, right? It's bootstrapping time, baby. So
yeah,
so
man.
obviously you had some, I'm assuming, some funds to kind of put into the beginning stages. Walk us through that piece of it. So you've got these two mentors. How are they directing you? And then what did you learn about that funding stage that kind of really exploded into the needs that you needed as a company to grow?
Yeah, man. In a nutshell, it was trial by fire. At the time, I knew I had traction and proof of concept in the market. And when we went to evolve into this bigger brand and the net, that's a much different, cost of good to produce, a much more expensive cost of good to produce than the Kickit Pro Trainer. Like this, it's not even close. So I had the economics early on via personal credit cards to buy inventory, and leverage to get kind of the business going. I come from a very beautiful family, not a very, well-capitalized family by any means. So it was very much like, what can I do? How can I pull? And so it was initially a personal credit card to get inventory. And as we started going into this bigger vision, it was like, man, I need to do this now, because if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it, and I need to figure out how to fund it. And so I found sources of capital through, so I went into and this is something I don't feel like early stage entrepreneurs get enough encouragement to do. And I was really thankful because my mentors encouraged me and really pushed me to do it. And there was a business accelerator program in Charleston. It's called the Harbor Entrepreneur Center. And they were doing these like 9-week accelerator programs. So you have to apply, you have to pitch your business to actually get accepted to get in. And at that stage, you become a part of this inner circle of 9 other businesses that are at different stages, but in similar, kind of early forming, trying to get proof of concept, trying to get traction. There was 2 other businesses in that cohort that were scaling, but the rest of us, I would say, were still kind of early stage. And at the end of that program, they put on an event. So it was a big networking event in the Charleston community where a lot of local investors would come to see what businesses are happening, who's pitching, what's being developed. And so it really put me on an opportunity to be on a platform to pitch the business. And through that met a local investor. And we had a couple meetings. I was showing him the numbers. I was showing him the product. and so we did a deal, and it was a convertible note, parlayed into equity as well. It was a definite, when I look back at the structure of that deal, if there were better sources or better opportunities for me, I would have certainly taken them. But that was really the best thing that I had. I was in Charleston, South Carolina. It's not a super well capitalized. It's not a very renowned market for startups. So the money there is there's a little more teeth behind it, so that deal actually ended up being very predatory at the end. The lender, just our interests weren't in the same vein, and so I ended up having to buy him out through raising other capital. So it's been a sequence, but we, at this stage, we raised capital in a few different ways. One was, really through the convertible note, early on. And then we did a simultaneous with a private raise, Form D. We did a crowdfund equity raise.
Sure.
And that was more or less a marketing opportunity, as well as a chance to, give our customers the ability to get in some of the upside of helping us grow the business. So in a lot of ways, it brought a lot of our customers closer to the business. There's a lot more support on social media. There's a lot more support and engagement in our emails when we launch new products because of the crowdfund equity campaign that we ran. But the Form D as well kind of helped us to get out of this sort of predatory note that we needed to get out of. Again, it was a matter of lack of really other options at that point. And so I did the best thing that I could do, and that was to run with a note that was a little bit, had some teeth on it, and figure out how to work with it.
No, I love it. Look, I think you just shared something so transparent, right? And in the world of entrepreneurship, the businesses that I've had have been bootstrapped, all of them, right? I never went into the marketplace to ask for capital. Had an exit in 2009, got into finance. And it's interesting because now I do projection-based lending, right, with the SBA. So you get a window of about $5 million up to that. But projection-based lending, you have to be very thorough. You have to show your numbers, what you're going to project over the next 2-3 years. A lot of people miss that the SBA could be a great opportunity. Like you did, convertible notes. You learned some things, right? You did some private raising. So I really appreciate, you can sense kind of that inner working of what you went through, right? So it's so genuine. I really appreciate that. And the Go for CEO community, if you caught some of the things that Eli shared there, I think you could really learn of how you go to market and strategize of where you're going to get your capital. Are you going to raise funds? Are you going to do it privately? Are you going to start with a credit card, right? Do you have a home equity line? Do you do SBA? All those types of things. So really, really appreciate that. So now, look, we're established. We're in there. We're making things happen. You're selling product. You're maneuvering. You're changing products. You're developing a different strategy. Boom, pandemic hits. You actually, like you said, 180'd. And now you're in this game scenario, kind of like you said, pickleball at the beginning, and it has a really neat feel to it. I've seen some of the fields that you put out there in social media and how you set up these games all over the place. So what is marketing like for you right now? I mean, marketing is such a neat experience, right? Do they say, is it sales or marketing that drives your business, right?
Right.
As a CEO of a company and has the guy that really kind of has been the face of everything that you've done, where has marketing played, and how have you developed either your strategy or a team around that, or support of vendors that help you market Kickit?
Marketing is a huge piece, and it's something that, for us, I think in the next phase of our growth, we'll try to separate that entirely from sales. At the moment, I do a good bit of both. And it's also a bit of, this is my baby, right? Like, I want to control the branding. I want to make sure that everything looks good and how it should. And so it's hard for me to kind of let go fully of the marketing and let go fully of the, I manage a lot of the bigger sales relationships, and that's just important for my role. But we've tried a lot of things over the years. We've tried, some of the biggest ad agencies in New York to run all of our marketing from an omni-channel approach. We've tried independent contractors, we've in-housed it, so we've tried a bunch of different things, and there's a lot of learnings from every single thing. I would say right now, the biggest, really, you'll probably hear this from everybody, but over the past year and a half, really since immediately after COVID, iOS 14 released from Apple, changing some of the privacy in all the devices, which then disabled Facebook advertising to be able to cookie devices. And so now you went from a world where you could cost effectively retarget that device because you knew that was the device that just interacted with the video, to then a world where you don't know what device interacted with the video. So now you got to spend more dollars and hoping that you can get that same device again without any transparency. And again, that was all under Apple's kind of privacy, policy that they just updated into their software. And so since then, a lot of the paid advertising model and paid advertising model just hasn't been as profitable, which has made it really challenging for us to keep on an ad agency who is driven by performance marketing. They're not showing us the bottom line as a profitable, as these campaigns are profitable, then we can't afford to keep them, right? And so it's been a lot of pivoting. We went from really hardcore paid marketing to a little bit more of an organic approach. This tour that we did around the US, so we traveled 3,000 miles plus around the US and then over into Europe. And a lot of that was, let's get more of that grassroots organic awareness around the brand, around the game, getting different people to try and play it, to spread that word of mouth. And so that's been, a big part of our marketing strategy to kind of counter what used to be more like, we were ninjas in the pay-per-click game. I mean, I was watching data analytics like left and right, and that was my job, was to digest that data, pivot, remarket the campaigns. And we still do some of that because it's a good method, but it's just not as profitable. So we're switching more to that organic grassroots focus, which is doing really well for us right now. I mean, we're up 225% year over year due to some of those more grassroots marketing campaigns, obviously due to some of the product changes as well.
Hey, look, old school is new school sometimes.
That's right, man. That's right.
I love it. I love it. There's such a pureness, right? And especially in your type of industry, you call it the background game industry. I think it was that you said
backyard game. Yeah.
Backyard game. So,
yeah.
The reality is, I'm going to tell a friend, I just had a great experience, right? At the gym that I work out, they took out one of the basketball courts and literally made the whole thing pickleball. And I'm like,
oh man,
I'm like, what's going on here? I'm paying for a membership and I don't even play this game. But it was interesting because the development of that, and for that gym, who's a pretty big gym, I won't give them any notoriety, but they're nationwide, and they literally took a whole basketball court out of each gym and put pickleball. So it's interesting, right? Maybe one day it'll be a Kickit court, right?
That's right.
So let's get it in there. So
That's right.
Awesome stuff, man. Look, I really appreciate the vulnerability, like you said, that great authenticity of how you raised capital, had some challenges, recreated yourself, bought back equity into your business. I mean, these are all things, marketing, right? Having to pivot from a regulation that came out, or really a company decision, like you said, with Apple, and now doing things to tweak to organically get into that growth mode again. So when you're thinking about scaling right now, where is the company at? And obviously you are the founder, CEO, entrepreneur, but where has the team come from? How have you been able to scale that piece of it? And is it through vendors that support you? Is it through internal people that you've been able to bring on to the staff? What is your outlook on that, and how have you developed that?
And I think I mentioned a little bit of this earlier, but my understanding of team just from playing sports was that's a really critical piece, and that became even more emphasized by the initial lender that we had in the business that just wasn't a good fit, and it wasn't this type of culture, didn't have the right integrity. So learning, being a little bit more careful about who we bring in. But I would say in terms of the team, the most critical difference between what we are now and what we were, pre-COVID is really the finance side of the house. I was at a certain point in time doing everything, right? Reconciling the books, putting projections together, developing the product, marketing campaigns. I was doing everything, and so as we started to grow, I could start off offload some of that stuff. I try to live by Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week philosophy. That really was pivotal in me understanding, how do I want to design my life? I don't want to build a business where I'm strapped to a desk, 24 hours, just nonstop. And so a lot of the way that I've designed the company is to do through automations, through third-party vendors, to enable me the flexibility, which enabled me to tour and travel and do all the organic things I needed to do. So, but we brought in a CFO officially, really right after COVID. And a big part of that was, at that time, the way that we were doing our books and bookkeeping, it just wasn't accurate enough within the time frame that we needed. So I was making decisions based on numbers that were telling me what was happening 4 months ago, not what's happening last month. And so I was making these decisions on old data and not the right decisions, and so it became very apparent that in order for us to make sure that what we're doing and the decisions we're making are setting us up for the most success, like, we have to have someone hardcore in there. That's all they do is eat, sleep, and breathe the numbers. And so we brought on a CFO full time, and he's been amazing for us. I mean, the guy, he's a numbers guy. I'm a marketing, I'm a product. Like, that's my superpower. That's what fuels me. That's what gives me energy, and numbers give him energy. He's in the books, he's in the projections, he's constantly looking at the, what are the margins? Are we good here? Does this sales channel make sense? So that's been huge, and has given me a lot more space to be like, okay, let's focus on bringing this email marketer in, this SMS marketer in, like, let's use this channel, let's solve this problem. So in terms of team and scale, we've got, like I said, the CFO that we brought in was huge. And every year we have our annual shareholders meeting where I bring in advisors from Carissa, Kent, who I mentioned earlier, our kind of, I would say, our main investor, and then 2 other investors that have come in as well through the private raise. And we kind of come in together and brainstorm, hey, this is where the growth is going to come from. Right now, in terms of where that growth will come from, is new products. We've got our base product line built out. So now we're developing and engineering and producing a really exciting, I can't tell you, I wish I could tell you what they are. Now I'm just so excited about this. We've got 3 products coming out in the next, they should arrive by October 1, or somebody's going to be in trouble. But we've got 3 new products, man, that I just think are going to be amazing. I think people are gonna love
it's the Go for CEO channel. Who are you going to
man, I'll have to come back on and then we'll share it there. But I'm really excited about that. That's really where the growth is going to come from for us. And so, yeah, we've outsourced a lot of stuff. We've outsourced fulfillment. We've outsourced warehousing, storage. At one point or another, we were fully outsourced in advertising and marketing. We've now in-housed that again. So, yeah.
No, I love it. Look, I wrote down real quick, forecasting, right? A lot of small businesses just don't know how to forecast their business, right? Yeah. And you brought in a critical individual, a CFO. A lot of businesses are also Go for CEO community using these fractional CFOs, right? So it is truly important to know your numbers. I'm a finance guy. I'm always looking at, fiscal, financial things, P&Ls, interims. Right now I'm working on 4 or 5 deals that 2022s aren't done yet. We can't really move forward until those P&Ls coincide with the business tax returns. What's your EBITDA, right?
Right.
Where are you at? So, there's such a dynamic of finance. It's really cool to hear that you invested in that person, right? And you found the right person. It matches with the way your superpowers are, that you called it, right? With his superpowers, and really cool stuff. So tell us a little bit about the operations side, right? Because CEO is, client experience, engagement, and operational excellence. So let's dive a little bit into that. At the end, we'll talk about those 3: client experience, engagement, and operational excellence. But kind of a high level from an operational side of things, you mentioned right now that you outsourced a lot of things. And I can imagine this 4-hour work week, right, mindset. Where have you, I guess, perfected some of the channels? Because you're on Walmart.com, Amazon.com, like obviously Kickit, .net, right? I believe it is.
Yeah.
So where has those, areas perfected for you that you felt challenged maybe a year or 2 ago?
Operationally, the biggest so I mentioned the getting the finance piece. I mean, like that's, without that, man, you're driving with a blurry window, you're looking through like I just picture, driving down the road and you can't clean your, and you're like, you're kind of, is that the line? I don't know, and so that was critical, right? So then I think the next stage from that is, as we scale inventory quantities and as we scale product line and expand on the product line, really getting that supply chain in order was critical. If we have a low service level of a product in the market, meaning the Kickit, the Kickit Pro Trainer sold out and it's been sold out for 6 weeks, and that's happened 4 times in the year. And if that's a critical product for us, that's an acceptable service level. We need to have a 90% plus service level, meaning, but then we have other products that we don't sell as much. And so if that service level dips a little bit because we're focusing on this service level and we're reserve cash for that and growing that line, then it makes sense for us to dip a little bit in that service, for that product. So getting the supply chain has been really critical. And that's been like, there's so many nuances in that. I could go into a really, a deep hole there, but really getting clarity on what has the lead time been. There's been traumatic differences in lead time since COVID. The whole supply chain for most people has been all over the place physically. Container ships cost, used to at one point cost me $2,500 to get a 20-foot. Then at one point cost me 25 grand to get a 20-foot. And those types of changes. And then not only that, but then they have the gall to take that same ship and then go to 6 other ports that weren't originally on the book just to pick up more inventory to charge that same fee. And now we're 3 months later than it should have been arriving, and we paid 25, it's just crazy things. But so getting that supply chain and narrowing that down. I mean, I've got like a stopwatch on my product. When stuff goes out of stock, like I know how much time it's been out of stock, when it arrived, did our warehouse take too long to unpack it? Those types of things have been really critical. And then every week we have a huddle up, we look at all the numbers. This is our scorecard. These are the top numbers that we need to pay attention to, revenue, dollars spent on advertising. How is each SKU doing in terms of inventory level? Product reviews are critical for us. So just tracking like those KPIs on a very weekly basis, making sure that those high level numbers are in line, and then keeping our supply chain in order. A lot of those are skills that I've had to acquire, just knowing that I've got to keep learning and investing in myself to make sure that I can keep growing this ship as we scale it. So, so the supply chain piece has been a really big one.
Such key words to it and phrases in business: SOPs, KPIs, operations, supply chain, all these things that really matter when you're trying to be a growing business and thriving in what you're doing. So look, over the next few minutes, we like to end these interviews with CEO. So client experience. I'd love to hear what Kickit is doing for the client, right? The end user. Do you have a dynamic way to interact with them? Are you sharing with them any type of little nuances, right? That come directly from you, note or whatever. Engagement, which is really your vendors, your mentors, your staff. How do you engage with them? And then operational excellence, as you just went over, and maybe just a couple clues of softwares or things that you're using to kind of streamline some things for yourself. So let's start with client experience. It's a big deal to have a client really kind of buy your product, have a great feeling, and then tell others. So what is client experience for you from a high level?
Critical. Client experience, so important, especially the transparency of customer reviews. Amazon's a huge channel for us right now. And so it's actually been a really great byproduct of raising capital, is that we did this equity crowdfunding campaign, and one investor from that, he invested because his daughter had she had gotten a Kickit early on and loved it, and she took it to practice with it every single day. So he came across our campaign. He's like, oh my, no way. Like, my daughter loves this. She uses it all the time. I want to contribute. And by the way, I that's all I do, is I do customer experience management for Google, for these big companies, as I come in and help them analyze, how do we improve that experience? So he's been on consulting calls with us before, and just kind of walking through, like he'll buy a product every now and then, be like, hey, like this was kind of like, I don't know about this. This didn't give me a good feeling. This might be something to look at. So we look at everything, packaging. I mean, every single product that we produce is better than the last. And that's a big part of it. Like you said, if the product experience isn't good, then no one's going to say anything about it to their friend, and that's currency. Word of mouth is currency. So we set up every now and then, like once a quarter, we have interviews. So I'll pull like 40 people that had just recently bought in the last 30 days. I'll send them an email saying, hey, I'll give you a $50 Amazon gift card if you can give me 30 minutes of your time. And I go through these questions that are designed to get clarity around what triggered them to buy in the first place. What did they think about it when they first opened it? Have they used it since? When do they typically use it? So then I can get more clarity around marketing, like when I'm marketing, if I can know that, and this is wild. There's so much science and information out there now about marketing in terms of like when someone actually starts to explore, okay, I've got this problem, like 4th of July was huge for us, right? So everybody, 2 weeks ago was like, oh, what am I going to do for this 4th of July party? I got my backyard. That's a trigger. So I know that when we start to come up on these triggers, this is important to have messaging around it. But I don't know those things in the granular detail that I need, so I can speak to the customer as they're looking without those conversations. So we do these interviews, and those are, just the amount of information is so rich for us. And it's great because it builds a better relationship with us. Now they feel like we care about them. So customer experience is huge. Yeah, that's the answer. The answer for that.
That's such an incredible nugget of gold right there, right? The sheer fact that a founder CEO makes the time to call them directly, to email them, to be able to sit down with someone, that alone builds such an incredible experience. They're like, man, I talked to the guy that actually created this stuff, right? So what a cool experience, and what a data set to have now to be able to capture that. And over 50, like you said, 100, 300 interviews. Now you have exactly what your clients are needing, when they're needing it, and what to know everything about it. So
I'll just say one more thing on that. I think one of the challenges as an entrepreneur and a founder, especially if you're scratching your own itch, like for me, in a lot of ways, I was scratching my own itch. I wanted to do something that was more fun, that was a little more casual, but still soccer. So, in doing that, I'm creating sometimes a product for myself. And I think if you're trying to build a product, you're trying to build a business for scale for more people, you have to be able to remove yourself from that equation and try to understand what is the value that they're looking for and speaking in their language. If I'm speaking about like this creates drag, which the aerodynamics, I've already lost somebody. But if I tell them, hey, this is slower, so now it's easier for you to play, that language now resonates on a different level. And I don't think you get to that kind of granularity, which is critical to grow, to attract more people, unless you're having those conversations with the customer.
Hey, words matter. One of my mentors, and he doesn't even know he's a mentor of mine, but he talks about words matter in business, right? And the way you approach it, the way you talk to someone, even the tonality, right? The body language, all that stuff, right? In those types of situations can really affect the next step. So awesome stuff. So here, E is for engagement. Engagement, we used to say employee engagement, but we noticed a lot of small and medium-sized business owners that we interview either have a smaller staff or work a lot more with vendors. They have a lot of people that help them from a outside perspective. So what's the engagement for you? Like, what is it that you value most when you think about engagement with your vendors, your CFO, your staff, the people that are working with you, your investors, your advisory board? Like, how do you engage and keep that momentum going?
Yeah, and this is something that I feel like I'm continuing to work on. I'm continuing to learn to do better at. It's a challenging thing because at the end of the day, relationships are everything. If you don't have good relationships, I don't think you have business. And so we have a few different things. We've got a Slack channel, and we've got a few different channels within that where I've got different levels of. So we've got 90 people in one, and those 90 people are VIP customers. So we got a new product coming out. I'll drop this in. Hey guys, what do you think about this? And I'll poll them, so that's maybe one way. And then we've got a channel for our advisory board that I'll ping in. Hey, this is what we're looking at. This is the costs. This is the projected, inventory buy. And this is the packaging. Like, give me general thoughts before we pull the trigger, any last minute things that I should consider, or what do you think about this? So, those touch points are really good. I would say people really appreciate the authenticity and the realness. At the end of the day, we're all people. And one thing that I've tried to be more, I would say, more actionable on, especially with, our CFO, our factories, is the consistency of communication. I mean, my factory, I'm communicating with them. I'm talking like probably 6-7 hours a day. I mean, it's wild. But through that, because I would say like early stage, I was more like, hey, here's the purchase order, let's rock. Here are the design files. This is the date we need it to arrive. And I just kind of like focus on everything else at that point. And what I've found by being more communicative with them, almost over communicative, that the relationship is so much more like, there's so much more willing to say, hey, like, I know this is how you wanted it, but I think we could do this, and this would be better for you because X, Y, and Z. And they're going that extra mile. And I think a lot of that is because the equity that I'm building on that relationship side, just through consistent communication. So that, and then I try to keep it informal. We're a backyard game, soccer focused brand. We're not an accounting firm. We're not, so it's fun. Like everything needs to feel like casual fun, so I'm checking in. Hey, how was the 4th? We just had a barbecue with everybody. It was awesome. I hope you guys are having a good time. Those types of things I find are helpful and just keeping everybody excited about the mission,
I love it. Engagement is huge. And I'll tell you, the nugget I picked up there was a little bit of a secret there. So you have a 90-person VIP Slack group, right? Those people already probably know about October. So I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, hey, you know what? There's really cool. One of the things is, right, when you have that VIP sense, right, even in a client experience side, you feel like you're part of something. You're the inside scoop, right? All of us always wanted to get into the club, and who do I give a $20 bill to the bouncer?
Yeah, right.
Or do I know the DJ? That's what it feels like.
The line.
Yeah, it's a really cool experience. So last one, you went over a little bit on operations, but can you share with us maybe from a small, medium-sized business perspective and CEO of a company, what are some software, some tools that you're using for Kickit, to be able to, kind of streamline your operations?
So we use, in terms of, I would say like one of the most powerful tools that we have been leveraging more recently is Attentive. We use them for email and SMS marketing, and it used to be kind of just exclusively an SMS channel, which SMS, when we first got on with them, was a very new idea. Okay, how are we going to feel about marketing in a text message format? Are we going to spam? Are our customers going to feel like they're getting spammed? Is communication frequency too much? So we've now kind of streamlined that, integrated that into our email marketing. So a lot of that is making sure that automated sequences are online, new product, so I feel like from a marketing standpoint, Attentive has been really, really good for us as a platform to use. A lot of the stuff we've self-built, like in terms of our supply chain management, in terms of, reorder points and tracking those critical things. A lot of it is, we've got like an Excel machine. So, it's not sexy. Like, Slack is big for us for communication internally. We use HubSpot, and we have a HubSpot for our wholesale clients. And that's good for keeping track of pipeline. When did they order last? When do they need to reorder? When do we need to remarket? So those are kind of the main softwares. Outside of that, again, I think there's a lot of design software used for packaging and stuff like that. But we're able to kind of, our Excel book is like 30 tabs deep, and it's all interconnected, and it's kind of a machine that, we just built over the years, and it works great. So we're going to keep rolling with that.
No, awesome stuff. Look, there's bunch of ERP systems. There's Odoo. I just actually just been recently kind of investigating them, and I saw a little clip of the founder and what he did to small business and kind of integrating a lot of stuff. So really, really cool stuff. So look, Eli, super appreciative, the Go for CEO community. I know, you're going to leave a comment, interact with Kickit.net, and let's give them some of the other outlets and where they, do they just look it up on Amazon, buy Kickit? Like, what's the best way to interact and buy your stuff?
Right now, we're really focusing on Amazon. It's great for the customer, especially if you're on Prime, 2-day free shipping, those types of things. So Amazon's great. We also, I would say we've gotten the most traction through social media recently, through TikTok. We've gotten, you know, several million views over the past 2 months, really. Just a lot of that is kind of, I think, a reflection of the grassroots tour and showing other people playing and the customers and all that kind of stuff. And so it's fun. It's really fun on TikTok. So if anybody's on there, be sure to check us out. It's Kickit Sport is our username. And yeah, we're on all social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube is we're about to reinvigorate YouTube. So a lot of fun stuff going on there.
Reinvigorating by coming on the Go for CEO channel.
That's right. That's right. This is it. This marks it.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on. You know, super appreciative. And Go for CEO community, like I said, you know, engage with Eli. You know, check him out on Amazon, check him out on LinkedIn. He's super active on LinkedIn, always sharing the community, sharing with the story, what's going on with Kickit, and excited for October. So I'd love to be one of the channels that you come on again. You know, every 6 to 12 months, we've been trying to get welcome back interviews. So those are about 15, 20 minutes. Check us out with some of the recent CEOs and founders that we brought back on and shared with you what was going on in their business over the last 6 to 12 to 18 months. And it's really cool to see kind of the transformations, the things that Eli just talked about. So Eli, thanks again, man. Appreciate you being on the Go for CEO channel.
Thanks, John.